Hi guys, it's Brian from Anarchy Models here. Today we're going to be looking at the first of a new range of stencils in collaboration with Mantic Games for use with their Battlezones scenery. So today we're looking at the landing pad stencils, which you can see here. This is something I've drawn up on the computer to give you an idea of what we're going to be trying to create today. You don't have to do it in these colours. You could use the thick strips on the end, or you could use both thin strips here. You also have a choice of the sign you can put somewhere else. We're just going to look at this today, but you could use it in other ways if you wish. So this is what the actual stencil sheet looks like as a printout. So we've got different elements here. We've got the big H for putting in the middle. You can number your landing pad here or with letters, and you have various bits for signage and for doing chevrons on the landing pad as well. So the key with this stencil is preparation. You need to start from the beginning with the base colour you want the different elements to be. So I'm going for a white H with yellow chevrons. So to get a nice coat of yellow, we're going to start with a yellow base coat. I've primed the kit white here, and one thing I will show you to start with is the key to this kit is to, as I say, preparation. With these pieces here that you get in the landing pad kit, they're normally placed like this. For quickness, for doing the stencil, we clip these together like so, with the clips that come with the kit, but we clip them on the back. The reason for that is it's a lot easier to work with the stencils without the clips there. You can either leave them on the back, or you can paint them separately and stick them on the front afterwards. So that's one thing. So you do that to both of the corner pieces here. Also again here with the actual landing pad piece itself, the clips are all on the back. Again, this is just because it's easier to do the stencils with them on the back, and you can always paint them and stick them on the front afterwards if you want to. So that's the preparation for those. I've got my stairs here glued together, ready to be done, and we have the legs here. I've left them on the sprue so it's easier to paint. I've primed these black because these are going to be silver, and we have the vents here. I'm going to be doing the surrounds of the vents in the dark red. I didn't want a very bright red, so I haven't primed them white, I've primed them a grey. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is we look at our design here. This is what I'm planning to do. These arrows are done at the very end, but this H here, this is done at the very start. So we use the white primer to apply the H. So as usual, it's difficult for you to see the stencils on the backing sheet, but they're on there. So we'll peel the H off. You can see it's still lots of other stuff on there, and you want to arrange that H so it's in the very middle of the landing pad. That may take a few attempts to line it up nicely. I need to move it across ever so slightly here. There we go. So you have the H on there. You press it down firmly. Make sure it's really stuck on there. So, and that's it. That's all we need to do for the H. That will then keep it white for the end of the design. So the next thing we need to do is we need to do the chevrons and the stripes. You can leave the stripes off if you want, if you don't want those, or you can, as I say, you can do the different stripes here. You know, you don't have to do exactly the same as I'm doing. So, but just for this design, the next thing we'll do is we'll do the yellow in the areas that need it. I've decided I'm not going to do these bits yellow. These are the vents. I'm going to do them red instead. So we'll just spray the areas we need to be yellow. So here we go. You could spray the entire thing yellow, but I'm just going to concentrate on the actual bits that need to be. I don't go too heavy with the paint here. now I'm just going to do the stairs, and the chevrons on the stairs just go on the edge here, so we're only going to be painting those. So leave that to dry over there. Now we're going to go back to doing another coat of the yellow on here. So just check this is done now. That's good. Leave that to one side. So on this one. Just turn this round a bit so I can make sure I've done it all evenly. Right, so that is the yellow stage done. Let's put these back where you can see them. So you could, as I say, you could paint the entire thing yellow, but there's no need to. It'll work just as well like this and saves paint. So for the next part, I am going to paint the vents here. So I'm just going to change colours quick. So we've done the yellow. We'll now decide I'm going to do red around the vents, so we're just going to give them a quick, so I'm doing it, you can see it, just a quick coat of red. As I say, I've done quite a dark red, and I've given it a grey base coat rather than white. It helps to stop it from being really too bright. So there we go, that's the red part done. So put them to one side to dry. So obviously we need to make sure the yellow is nice and dry, so I will come back in a minute and we'll carry on from there. So here we have our yellow, nice and dry, ready for the next stage. So here is where you'll see why we clip these two together. The next stencils are strips like this, which we lay over this area in an alternating pattern to mark off the yellow and black chevrons, or whatever colour you wanted them to be. Make sure they're lined up exactly over the raised markings there. There we go, so make sure that's pressed down. We're going to do an alternating pattern. Like so. So you'll leave every other one blank. The reason these aren't all in one piece for you to lay down is they have very little support. They tend to flap around when you try and lay them down. It'd be very difficult to do it nicely. So we have these loose strips here, which you only need to lay down every other one anyway. Press down firmly, make sure they're all on there nice. So as we can see, they're mostly on here now. So we'll just finish them off and then do the other one as well, so that both of them end up with all the stripes on. So here we have all the corner pieces with the strips on. So we'll just make sure that these are all firmly pressed down. Right, so these are ready. We'll just leave them to one side. Next we'll be working on the main area here. Now going back to my picture, I like to have the thicker strips in the middle and the thinner ones on the outside. You could swap it over, or there's enough on the sheet you could do both thick on the inside and outside, or it's up to you. So here we have the strips on the sheet. We'll replace these just on the inside of the hatches here. So make sure it's smooth, and then you can press down in the middle, so press down here with a tool or your fingernail and make sure it's gone into this crease here. Now I'll do this one here as it's next to me. And you do the same thing again. Make sure it goes into the join in the middle. Try and keep it as straight as possible. So that's one side. We just need to do the same on all the other sides now. Again, make sure you get it pressed into here. So there we go, we have all the lines on there. So next we need to move on to the last yellow piece, which is the stairs here. So going back to our sheet, these are the pieces here we need right now. So we find them on the sheet, they're down here. So this is what the stair chevron piece looks like. And we use these by placing them on the inside of the stairs, like so. So you put this edge running up to the edge of these raised lumps here. So you just place them on there, up against the raised pieces, and to the back of each stair, like so. And you can use a tool to make sure they're pressed down. We just do the rest. Make sure they're pressed down. You can use a paintbrush or a knife just to make sure they're pressed down. So again, just putting them in here to the back of the stair and up to the edge of the raised area in the middle there. Like so. So we'll just do the rest of these. So there we have it. We have all the chevron pieces on the stairs. So we just leave that to one side now. So all these areas are now ready for the next stage. Now you could come straight in with the base colour, but I'm going to do a bit of pre-shading now. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. Just come straight in with the base colour now. But I'm going to do a bit of pre-shading. So, a nice dark colour here. And we're going to do some shading into the nooks and crannies of all these areas. Now, as you can see, I'm not being terribly precise about this. This doesn't matter, you don't need to be. You'll see what this looks like a bit later on. And the fact it's a bit messy doesn't really matter. This is to give it a bit of a shade, a bit of weathering. It also helps tone down the yellow a bit for when we put the base coat on. And it doesn't really matter too much if you make a mistake at this point. This is all going to be covered up with the base coat. So that's enough of it. I'm just going to quickly pre-shade these. Now these ones, as we're not going to be covering this up too much, to be a bit more careful of. So that's that for that. So that's the pre-shading done. Now we move straight on to the base coat. Now, as I was saying, we didn't need to worry too much about the pre-shading being exactly precise, because this is the base coat. That's the colour here, look. So we're going to be using that. As you can see, we're covering up a lot of the pre-shading, but that's the point of it. So in the area here I made it a bit too dark. I can use the base colour to knock that back. So there we go, that's the kind of effect we're after. So we'll just follow that round onto the rest of it. So as we can see, where we pre-shaded it, we've got a nice grubbiness there. It just helps it give it a bit more detail. So we'll do the rest of that over the whole rest of the area, and then we'll come back in a minute. So we're just finishing off the last couple of bits here. One thing you want to do is when you've finished, make sure you go round. Some of the edges here may not have been gotten properly. So make sure it's all and given a good coat of the base coat. Keep turning it around, make sure you've got all the edges. So there we go. So before we finish with the base coat, we need to give the side pieces here a coat of black. This is to do the second stage of the chevrons. So just a light dusting to start with. We'll move on to the other one while that one's drying. So even though this is black, it's not covering the yellow fully. We're just doing a light coat for the first stage. Another coat there, you can see it's covering much better with the second coat. That's the other one. And now we want to make sure we get the paint right into these parallel lines here. So we follow each of those lines up. Again, don't have too much paint. Back to the original one. I'm just going to dry it just for the air now. There's no paint right now, it's just the air. And just make sure the paint right into the creases. Again, I'm not blasting on, so there's only a little bit of shininess there, it's wet. It's drying very quickly. That's what we want. We don't want a really wet heavy coat. Just drying it with the air here. Final coat. So there we go. Drying this off now. So we want to do the base coat round the edges here, but if we do it now we'll end up covering up the black with the base coat, which is not what we want. So we have pieces of stencil to help you with that. So first of all you need to remove all these pieces, and if you want to use them again you can stick them back on the sheet. So now we have these pieces with the stripes removed. We're going to leave them to one side to dry, and the next off we're going to do these here. So I've already put the stencils on a couple of them. As you can see, it covers up the area we've painted red, and we'll just do that to the others as well. So there we go. Make sure they're all pressed down. So we'll now move on to painting the stairs and the vents here black. So we're only going to be concentrating on the middle here. We're painting these black as a nice undercoat for doing the silver, which we'll do later. Right, so those are done. We'll leave them to dry, and we'll just do the stairs with the black now. Again, nice light coats to start with. You can see it's barely changing the yellow. You do need to make sure you come in at a bit of an angle to get in there. So a nice light coat. You can still see quite a lot of the yellow showing through the black. Now I'm going to paint the rest of the stairs silver later on, so we'll give the whole stairs a coat of black. I'm just going to use the air now just to dry it. You can see it's a bit wet. And we'll just go in again, making sure we've got the yellow nice and covered up. So we're going to have the yellow on the sides here from before. Carefully paint those in. Don't blast it in too much, else you might blow paint underneath the stencil. On the edges of the stairs here. Just going to do the top. Make sure it's got a nice, good solid coat of black on there. So there we go. So we leave that to dry. Now before we finish the with the base coat colour, we need to do these pieces here. Now we have pieces on the sheet that enable you to mask off all the chevrons and just paint around the outside. So as we can see, perfect shape for fitting right into the chevron area here. It works best if you use this piece first, going into the corner like so. As you can see, it fits right in there. And the other one. There we go. Make sure they're all pressed in. Let's do the other one. So again, this piece first, into the corner. Like so. Now you could paint the outside by hand if you wanted to, but it's a lot quicker to use these masks and use the airbrush with the same colours you had in there earlier. So, a bit of a miss there from earlier. Right, so light coat to start with. I'm going to hold it onto the actual stencil, so I'm not going to rub the paint off with my fingers. Just light coats, building it up. It will take a few coats to get the black and the yellow evenly covered. I'll just do the other one while that one's drying a little bit. You can see I'm not really blasting on, you can still see the yellow and black through it for the first couple of passes. Leave that one, come back to the first one. So you're now covering up the chevrons quite nicely. There we go. The last few passes on this one. Make sure so let's put them to one side. Next thing we need to do, we need to remove the chevrons from the stairs. Again, if you want to use them again, stick them back on the sheet somewhere. You need to be quite. If you want to use these again, you'll need to be quite careful removing them, else it's very easy to stretch them. Just carefully lift from the edge here. So there we go. So we'll keep that for another time. So we'll just remove all of those. So, like so. Use a knife or something to make sure it's pressed down firmly, and you'll just put them all over all the chevrons. You could, if you wanted to just leave the stairs black, you could do that, or just dry brush straight on top of there. You wouldn't need to put all these on, but I'm going to airbrush the silver on there. So I'm just going to put all these on there now. So we've now got some silver in the brush. We'll just quickly do the stairs. Make sure we don't get the metallic over the rest of the model. So just a quick turn over. That's plenty. And while we're doing it, we can also do the legs. Now, I've left the legs on the sprue, so it's a lot quicker to do it like that. So, there we go. Now we're leave them to dry. We'll paint another set of legs later. And we'll also quickly do the vents here. That's it. So leave those to dry. So as we can see, we've got the base coat on, all the stencils are still on. Now, before we do the weathering, we want to do the last bit, which is remove all the stencils, and then at that point we can look at if you want to add a sign onto the H and do the arrows pointing to the exit. So we'll just move these. These can be a bit tricky to remove, so if you want to remove them, use them again, just carefully peel them off. There we go. Have the chevrons with the base coat around it, much faster than if you try to do it by hand. So we'll keep that stencil for later. We'll just remove the rest of the stencils. There we go. So now we'll remove the stripes. Let's move that so you can see it. So there's the odd bit here where I've pulled the paint off. I was a bit impatient putting the stencils on, so you must make sure you leave it long enough to dry, but we can touch those up in a minute. So now we remove the H, which is the very first thing we did. So we can use that again. Let's just do the last couple of ones here. So if we pop the clips open, now you need something to press the little buttons out of the clips. If you try and just wobble it free, you might damage the clips. So we'll take those out. Just place them how they would be. So there we go, that is most of the landing pad ready to go. As I say, there's a few bits here where I was a bit impatient putting stencils on. We can touch those up with a bit of yellow paint. Easy, no problem at all. So, next stage, I like to have a sign on the actual H itself. You could put the sign somewhere else. We've got several choices on the sheet. We've got Medivac only, or we've got private pad, VTOL, enforcer only, Mantic staff only, or you could just cover that up and have staff only, or drop off only. So whichever one you want to use. I'm going to go for the Medivac one, I think. So we find that on the sheet, which is down here. Now, when you remove the signs, as we can see, you have some of the bits left behind, and some of the bits are still left in the actual stencil. So first of all, you can see there's some here that are standing up. We need to remove those first. We can see the rest are all flush with the stencil still. The quickest way to remove all of those is to stick it on the back of the sheet, and when you peel it away, most of them will be left behind. You can see there's one there's being a bit tricky. And so there we go. There's one rogue bit down there. So that's now ready to use. So I quite like having a sign over the actual H itself. You could put it anywhere else you like, but I'm going to put it about there, I think. So make sure you've got clean hands. I'll show you, if I did it with this hand, I'll get silvery bits on the white. Press down firmly. What we need to do now is we want to make sure we protect the rest of the area. So I'm just going to use a bit of masking tape. As you can see, I'm not sticking it down really heavily to the rest of the area. It just needs to be tight to the stencil. The reason for that is we haven't let the paint dry for very long, so we just want to be careful about lifting the paint off. So we're just pressing around here mainly. Still got black in one of the airbrushes from earlier, and as usual, just a very light coat to start with. And just drying it just with the air now. Go back with the paint again. So that's enough for that. Just leave that to dry for a second before I take this extra stencil off. But I'm going to remove the tape first of all. Now, the other thing you can do if you want to is, as per my drawing here, you can have some arrows pointing to where the exit's going to be, and that's normally off to one side at one of these points. So I'm just going to have the arrows pointing off to here. So we have a stencil for that. Does both arrows at the same time. So we'll get that off the sheet. And as with before, we check if any of the pieces are standing up on the back. And this one is here. So we remove that. There's now no pieces standing up. Back of the sheet. Just to get rid of the extra pieces there. So they're all moved, and we want to have the arrows down in this area here because that's where I want to have the door. So let's just do that. Like so. Now again, press down firmly. I'm just going to change colours, so I'll be back in a second. So we now have some white in our airbrush, and we just need to quickly mask off around the arrows, or we'll end up getting the whole area white. Again, I'm just making sure it's pressed down against where the stencil is. Around the rest of it doesn't really matter. Like that. So just a very light dusting now with the white. Let it dry, and then just a bit more. That will do. So we'll remove the tape. There we have our arrows. And the sign in the middle here. The signs are a bit more delicate than some of the other parts, so if you want to use them again, you will need to be very careful, peeling away slowly, just gently teasing it away. There we see the medevac only. So there we have. You could just leave it there, but I'm going to do a bit of weathering just to grubby it up a bit. So I'm just going to change colours again, and we'll do that now. So got a nice, very watered down here, this grubby greeny brown. I'm just going to give a bit of weathering just to grub it up a bit, paying particular attention to the nooks and crannies around the yellow. So more light on there. So as we can see, it doesn't do an awful lot, but you can see it start to make it just look a bit more grubby. Just going around the edge of the chevrons here. So you can see the difference between the pieces here. It's quite subtle. This helps to accentuate some of the details. You don't have to do this stage if you don't want to. You could just leave it as it was. The idea of doing it quite subtle to start with, and you can build up to the colour you want. build up some just around where the vents are going to be. So, there we go. Let's turn it the right way around. And we could do some more chipping and staining and washes and things, but I think that's enough for today. And the only last thing to do, we just remove the masking bits off the stairs. Got some nice chevrons there. And we can do some weathering on those as well. And also we have our vents over here, so we'll just remove off the circle masks. Again, you probably want to do some washes and stuff on this silver. And we'll give them just a quick going over with the weathering colour. The same on the stairs. So let's just put these on. And there we go. Now you will then build up the rest of the landing pad in the same sort of way. So I have all the side panels here. I've done all these in the same sort of way. You'll then assemble these as per the kit, and then you're ready to go. As I say, you can do some more weathering if you want, do some chipping and washes and stuff. But for now, and that's the most of the stencils shown. So there we go. Thanks for watching. Cheers then. Bye.